for example, to frame coalition governments instead of having a divided government, to establish a coalition before the election, and then after that you have a government in coalition again. Electoral coalition will mean government coalition.
Well, if you have an electoral coalition, which has not been the practice in Mexico because you have a presidential system, if you can put together an electoral coalition that wins, you can conceive of a private cabinet of the president. The president remains, it's a non-divisible power. So the president can have a cabinet, let's say, of advisors that belong to the coalition that has elected him president. It's a big change, naturally, because presidential systems have the characteristic of simplifying problems by saying the president, there's a non-divisible power in the system. This power is the power of the president, and the president can defend itself against parliamentary majorities that are against him, can defend itself with a line and item veto technique. Unfortunately, in my mind, it was a very sensible thing to do. The line and item veto proposal has not been accepted, or not entered as far as I know. And so this creates, unnecessarily in my opinion, because big problems, because you can't have a presidential system that then governs with a coalition government. He can have coalition advisors, but presidential government is the government of the president. If not, you go on to a parliamentary system. And Mexico should make up its mind. It has a long tradition of presidentialism. And in my proposals, I said you can create a presidential system that finally functions. Because in most of Latin America, it doesn't, except now the rare case of Brazil. But Brazil has done very badly before. I mean, has
of course,
had a number of military coups, military dictatorship, civilian dictatorships. So I think that's a lost opportunity, because that could have saved the principle of presidentialism, and at the same time softened the divisions and disagreements.
the thing is how to build majority governments, and there is a great difference between the system of Mexico, the electoral system of Mexico, and the electoral system of the States. Basically, it's that in the States you have a two-party system, and in Mexico you have a multi-party system. So how can you protect pluralism, political pluralism, with an efficient government and having a majority system, a majority government? That's the question.
Well, the number of parties is basically 2 in the United States.
Yes.
And now that it's a rare exception, basically 2 in all the English-speaking countries, except in England now, but temporarily. And this implies that the country is accustomed to two-party government and votes for 2 major parties. Instead, in Mexico, there has been a
3 or 4 main parties.
Splitting. Now, the extreme left has, which would have been a big problem, has not won in the election and has had no president. but still, the more the parties, the more a presidential system doesn't function well. Of course, you can conceive a hybrid sort of system, presidential system, which, however, creates not his private cabinet, but a government, which in which he accepts, I think one should say, accepts members of the smaller parties.
Mm-hmm.
That may work or not. I prefer the line and item system.
There is another proposal in the arena, in the political arena in Mexico, that suggests that instead of having coalition governments, the way how to build majority system governments should be according to what they call governance clause, which is basically a system whenever you get 40% of the votes, you will get automatically the rest, just the 10%, and then you will get the majority. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm against majority premiums. In Europe now, I think they exist only in Italy. They have been frequent in older times. I can't think that it's really functional.
No. In this sense, the difference is that having the difference with coalition governments, the other proposal is to build a majority with one party. So if you have the 40%, let's say from the
Oh yes, with a majority premium.
So you will have the not a multi-party majority, but a single majority party.
I have objected very much to any majority premium. There have been lots of them, especially in Latin America. Majority premiums to electoral systems because it's very unfair. That means that the electoral system creates a majority out of a minority. Mm-hmm. So in practice, this means that the major minority takes over.
Which is very undemocratic, I guess.
Well, I think is unacceptable. I have approved majority premiums for parties that already have reached the majority, 51%. And then a majority premium simply means they're enabled to govern more efficiently and not to be paralyzed.
Right.
But governments, electoral systems and governments that create a majority out of a minority of votes and seats, that is a serious distortion, because that means that one party rules hegemonically in spite of not having a majority.